these horrible completers. Right, so it says we got another class for the board, and in the constructor it initializes each space in the grid to a treasure object with a value of -1 and level as an empty string. Okay, complete the code. It's like, oh right, okay, right. So I'm looking at this line. This line is the one I'm going to do first. I'm ignoring everything else. I can see that this is where the new treasure's created, and it told me value was going to be -1. And they've already put the empty string in there. I thought I was going to get to put double quotes in there. Okay. Right. What am I setting up? Well, it's the board, which they have called grid. Board is the name of the class. If you look at the attributes, there is something called grid. Again, these massive long things don't help. Right, and then we've got a next down here. So I'm looking at this and I can see I've got row and next row. So this is going to be column. And then all I've got to do is work out what these numbers should be. So the row, I think it was 10 rows. We have to go back to the previous part of the question now. Yep. Oh, hang on a minute. No, there was a little bit of information there. Row, 20 columns, 10 rows. So rows is 0 to 9. That's going to be 0 to 19 using their notation. Okay. We'd do it with a less than. So we could put 20. And we'd say less than 20, which is more logical than doing that. But there you go. Was that the end of that question? Oh, no.
No, you've got 2 more parts.
2 more parts. Right, okay. So we've now got to do a bit of coding. We're writing a procedure. Remember that. You're writing a procedure. Guess grid. Takes a board object as a parameter. Accepts row X and column Y from the user. Outputs no treasure if there's no treasure. If there is treasure, it outputs the level and the value with an appropriate message. Right, fair enough. Write the procedure, guess grid. So I'm going to write it as a JavaScript function. It's called guess grid. Right, it takes a parameter called board with a capital B, which is what I've got to copy. Right, don't know where it's going to end. I'm assuming I'm going to put a brace at the bottom somewhere, but I'm not going to put it in. Right, so it says the second, so I've done the first bullet point, so I'm going to tick that off. Done that. Accepts the row and column from the user. So I need to get that. Okay, so let X equals, and then I'm going to do like prompt, but I could just put input.
I just put input.
Yeah, I think they've got to have a bit of leeway here because some languages are going to be weird for this.
It's what they've got on their example.
Yeah.
Input.
So prompt row, please. Why have they called it X?
I just asked what's the X, what's the
Y,
like,
yeah.
Because that's what they want, X and Y. So
I think they've messed up there. Because that doesn't seem logical to me, but hey. Column. Put my little semicolons. Right, so I've done that bit. Right, so we then got to look at the board. Now, looking back at the question, for the board class, it's got 2 functions or 2 methods. Get grid item and set grid item. Well, we're not doing the setting, but we should be using that. Okay? We've got to use the things we've been given. So, I'm just going to grab hold of the treasure. I can't spell treasure, obviously. What I call it is up to me. So I'm going to use it. So it's going to be board, because I was given the board I'm processing, and I forgot what the name was now already. What is it called? Get grid item with capital G, capital I. So get grid item. And what was the order of the parameters? Was it X, Y?
Yep.
X, Y. Yeah, I think they made a mistake there, but doesn't matter.
Which bit of it was a mistake?
Where they've called the row X and the column Y in that bit of text there. I don't think they meant that. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect what we're writing. It's just like, yeah, right, daffies. Right, okay, so I've grabbed hold of the treasure at that location. Right, so we know from the previous thing we just did that when we have got no treasure, its value is -1 and its level is empty string. So we can use either of those to check whether we've got treasure. So I'm going to do an if. So I'm going to say if, I'm trying to stick to JavaScript, so treasure dot, what did I say, level? No, value, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So if value equals -1, then we haven't got anything. So it said output no treasure. So I'm just going to do console.log, and obviously it would probably acceptable to say output, because it could be a function you've written. Console.log, and I'm going to do it in the same capitalization. No treasure. Although it does say if there is no treasure found at the coordinate, level is an empty string. But they just told us it was -1. Okay. If it is treasure, so else, I'm going to put my brace there, else, outputs an appropriate message. So they want, so what they mean by appropriate message is put some text in there, do some concatenation. So I'm going to say treasure, and then I'm going to say plus, and it's treasure dot, I should have called it something short, I should have called it T. What was the other thing? Oh God, I can't remember. Treasure dot,
Get value and get level.
go, it was level, wasn't it? I couldn't remember.
Get value and get level.
Oh yeah, I've got that. Yeah, so level plus, and then the next line down, I'm going to say value plus treasure.value. End of my if, end of my function. It's really important, this bit about this get grid. If you've been given some functions, use them. They're not asking you to write it. To be honest, you could have done this, couldn't you? You could have said board, but then it's like, you know, are we doing this? Why have they done a getter? It goes back to the encapsulation that we asked us about before. There may be other processing that happens before we get given the treasure. There may be something happens to it in order to locate it properly in the grid. So we're trying to like abstract from the user of the code that just give us an X and Y, don't worry how we've stored the board. It might not be an array like that. It could be anything. It could be a hash table for space saving. Okay? Could be a sparse list. There might actually be lots of things that break if you try and access it directly. So use the features that you've been given. Right. Benefits of object-oriented over procedural. Write less code because you're inheriting features through inheritance. You've also got previous classes should be tested, be assumed tested. So any errors are going to be in your new code. Any errors will be in your inherited code. Also, we got the features of encapsulation, which you just don't get in procedural languages. Encapsulation allows us to guard access to data. I can never spell guard. Yeah, it's not that. It's you, innit? It's one of those words that until I see it, I can't spell it. Encapsulation guards and validates data members. And you can also have private functions, can't you, that help run the class. So private methods that only the class needs to know about. Can't do that with procedural languages. So we also hide the behavior. Users only see the public interface. You look at any procedural language code and it's all there for you. You can't stop people using your functions unless you put like an unknown number of underscores in front of them, which is why you see a lot of C code like that. Right, okay. And I think this was the last one.
Yep.